The Forum for Democratic Change is a party at odds with itself. Facing a grueling fight for leadership, party leaders have descended into an array of allegations, verbal insults, and in some cases, use of physical might. But with the National Council meeting on the horizon tomorrow, will the party mend its bitter and broken fences, or will it go bust? Tonight on the spot is the FDC party president, Patrick Oboi Amuriat. FDC party president, my namesake, Patrick Oboi Amuriat. A warm welcome to you.
Thank you very much, namesake Patrick Kamara. Thank you for having me here. A good evening to you, viewers. I am happy to be here again.
We are grateful that you honored our invitation, and let's get into it. You know, what happened a week ago to the FDC party, for which you are president, is nothing less of an implosion. What happened to that party a week ago is nothing less of an embarrassment.
I think the party has been a beehive of events, and both positive and negative publicity, depending on which side of this political confusion you find yourself. And I think that this is something that came to the surface 3 years after a red flag was raised by our founding father, Colonel retired Dr. Kizza Besigye. And the red flag was raised on a matter that has set the party into a state of confusion, and what has now ensued is pulling and pushing, and this is really undesirable. And that
what red flag are you talking about? Because what we have heard from him and others is that you received money from questionable sources to fund the FDC party.
That is really precisely what I mean. Ahead of the election of 2021, where I participated as presidential candidate, like any other election, the party would always look for money to run their business. And so here comes our founding father to say, look here, I have intelligence information that the leadership in Najanankumbi received what is today referred to as evil money. And boom! You know, that is unheard of within the ranks of the FDC.
If the founding party president is talking about dirty money that you have received, FDC members and Uganda are going to be more inclined to listen to the founding father than you. But what is the source of your money?
Well, as any other political party, under our constitution, we have got outlined different sources of money. One source is by membership contribution, sale of regalia and membership cards, fundraising, and one that is not mentioned in the constitution is money that comes from the government of Uganda through official channels, that is on account of our strength, numerical strength
in parliament.
In parliament, yeah. So this, you know, lots of things. But you know, we can also go into business.
But Mr. Amuriat, that's not the money Dr. Besigye is questioning.
Precisely, it isn't.
What is questioning? Where did you get that money from?
It's what is.
Who was your funder in this questionable?
The way political parties, especially those in opposition, operate, is that there are open ways in which we raise money, where the public is aware of where our money comes. But we have also maintained a principle as the FDC that wherever anybody donating money or funding our activities does not want to be revealed, we exhibit that confidentiality that is desirable.
So you are telling Ugandans, Mr. Amuriat, you're telling Ugandans with a lot of clarity that you received money and you had a non-disclosed agreement with somebody giving you money.
That has happened throughout our life.
So what is so hard?
Just get me right with
What
this.
is so hard, Mr. Amuriat, for you not to share information with the party leaders, including the founding party president, and with the deputy president of the party?
I think this information has been shared in confidence with top leaders of the party who needed to know, who are trusted with information. This is known within our circles. It's not like, something that is completely hidden. There is information that is availed to people whom we think should have this information.
So you're saying Dr. Besigye, your vice president, should not know about the source of the money. They shouldn't be among those people who know.
I even do not want to reveal who would get access to this classified information.
Engineer Amuriat, you have received money. You have party leaders like yourselves. You have a founding party president. You have a deputy president and a mayor of Kampala. These two people are not among those who should know, including the spokesperson of the party?
As I told you, information is classified and given to those who need to know it.
Yes, I just want
There is a need to know as a principle.
So you're saying Dr. Besigye has no need to know, neither is your spokesperson?
I even do not want to say anything about Dr. Besigye knowing or not knowing. There's a possibility that he knows.
There's a possibility that he knows.
Yes.
But he's saying so he knows that money is from a data source.
Well, this is therefore what the essence of the investigation that took place is, because we tried to have a conversation internally. There was disbelief in some of the information that was given. It was doubted, and for those who may not know, these were high-level meetings intended to resolve this question of money. And so, after failing ourselves, internally, this matter now came to the public, and it led to the formation of the Elders Committee that has now investigated this matter, asked for evidence, and this report is now, as you know, going to be read to the National Council that takes place tomorrow.
You really think that the party members and those watching tonight are going to believe you when you say that among those who have need to know, probably that does not include your spokesperson, and that does not include the founding president?
I think that the onus is for these people to really inquire and find out. It's really very disappointing that instead of doing that, people organize meetings outside the headquarters to condemn, to pass judgment over people without having to seek that information.
Well, I know Dr. Besigye and the Honorable Semuju and others and the Lord Mayor are watching you tonight. Did you tell them about the source, or they didn't have a need to know?
Dr. Besigye knows.
He knows about the source?
Yes, he does.
But you are also aware that the same Dr. Besigye is not happy about the source of the money because he thinks that was not legit.
Well, he has got his right to object to any explanation. And, there's a principle that is upheld that he who alleges should produce evidence.
So, clearly, the current president, yes.
Mr. Kamara, this is exactly what is going to happen tomorrow. And this was the focus of the interrogation that we went through, the investigation that the Elders Committee carried out to get to the bottom of this. So I do not know whether the Elders Committee will be believed or it won't be believed, but they were given authority to carry out these investigations. We subjected ourselves to the Elders Committee. We put up our defense, those who were accused, those who were not accused, those who have had evidence against the accused, presented their evidence. And so this is all going to be brought tomorrow in the analysis of the evidence that will be presented to the National Council, which is a body just below the National Delegates Conference.
On behalf of those who are watching tonight, let me be blunt as possible. Engineer Amuriat, did you receive money from President Museveni?
I didn't. In fact, my recollection is that the last time I met Museveni or even his agents was over 15 years ago. when I was member of parliament. So I have no reason whatsoever to interface with Museveni. Even while the opportunity was there in iPod and the other forums, I never took that opportunity to meet him because I thought that he is not an honest man when it comes to dialoguing. And so really, I am head of a political party. He is head of his own political party. There is no point of convergence of the two political parties, and therefore I do my business and he does his business in his party.
So clearly, today, it appears you and your Secretary General, the Honorable Nandala Mafabi, seem to be on one side, and the founding party president, Dr. Besigye, or the Honorable Semuju and Honorable Lukwago seems to be on the other. Your party, FDC, is on self-destruction.
I don't buy into that idea of one side against the other. No, we have only one party. That party is FDC. It regains us to carry out political business in this country. It resides, its headquarters is in Najanankumbi, in Kampala, and that is the organization that I lead. And so I think really disagreeing on a matter does not mean there has been a fallout.
If that is the organization that you lead, where were you when they were meeting at Sharing Hall in Zambia, in a meeting that your Secretary General said he hadn't even called for, and it went ahead, where all these allegations were made against you, where the dirty linen was washed in public for everybody to see? Where were you?
It is very unfortunate that some of our colleagues chose to do things the way they conducted their business. Normal party business is conducted within the precincts of our party headquarters or our branch offices. We have got activities in the fields, and we welcome such activities happening, especially if they are for the progress of the party. Unfortunately, this particular activity in Zambia was really preemptive of the report that had not been written yet by the Elders Committee. And so our friends became judges in their own case. They condemned us without even listening to us. How I wish they had used the opportunity of the Elders Committee to adduce evidence about any false money or dirty money coming to the FDC. It would have helped us much more than washing, like you said, washing our dirty linen in public and causing mayhem in the organization.
But if we have to read something from what happened last week, it's a dent and a scar on the leadership of Engineer Amuriat of that party, because that really shows your leadership either is lacking or is non-existent, because this is not a party that you inherited.
Well, it reminds me of the narrative of the media and naysayers and people who never wish the FDC well. When in 2018, we had a fallout, almost similar to what we have today. And our colleague, General Gregory Mugisha Muntu, together with a host of leaders, decided to walk out of the party. When they did that, everybody in this country almost wrote us off. They said FDC is completely dead. It's not going to survive. The most important people, the former Secretary General, the former President, the number of MPs have gone. And so, it was a storm. Because remember that I had only been in leadership of the party 1 year, and this was happening to me. I had fought hard to try to keep our former colleagues in the fold. This never happened. And so, there was total confusion. You guys in the media never helped this situation because you kept condemning us. You kept, reporting negatively against us. We survived that storm. We did.
Well,
we have also survived many other
I don't think you're not the same party anymore, because at that time you are the #1 opposition party in Uganda. You have ceded that position to another party. At that time, you had the leader of opposition was coming from FDC. You have ceded that position to another party. At that time, you have more numbers in parliament. You have ceded that position to another party. Yes, that was the beginning of the destruction of FDC, and we see this as a continuation. Well, you are never the same. You are not the same party. Well,
there is effect certainly of waves, different political waves in our political environment. But one thing I want to say about that, and that I have always repeatedly said, is that the FDC does not aspire to be the leading opposition. Our aspiration as a political party is for us to be the leaders in this country, to lead this country, take charge of it, control it, and lead it in accordance with the aspirations of the Ugandan citizens. And so really, for anybody to cry about slipping backwards, you know, in terms of being the leader of the opposition or even reduced numbers in parliament is really missing the point. The point for us is, how are we going to get to power in this country, lead this country, correct the flaws that have happened within the leadership of the NRM, bring back, you know, the country to the people, take it back to them.
But that is, if that is the case, we would have seen you add numbers of members of parliament. We would have seen you increase on your votes. We would have seen you maybe put a serious and formidable resistance against the NRM juggernaut in the last election. That was not the case. What happened exactly was for you to go back instead.
Well,
to lose the numbers, to lose the MP.
If you even
that doesn't look like a party that is serious take power.
If you even consider that we had an election, I think this is completely out of the point. We didn't have an election. What we had in 2021 was a military operation. Remember the environment under which we operated in that election. And to judge us based on that is being, to say the least, unfair.
Well, it is, the results are there for us to see, because it has never been an even ground. That's what you have always said for all the elections. But this time around, the result, what came out, to say the least, was embarrassing.
Patrick, you need to read Mr. Museveni's script. Many Ugandans haven't. You can only know what Museveni does in elections after you have followed the outcomes of several elections, beginning from 1996. That way you will get to know that for the convenience of the person in power, there is an element of allocation of results. And you know, maybe that is going to be a conversation for another day, when I will come here to tell you exactly what happened in 2021.
So you think they gave you results, that's not what you got?
It was just an allocation.
But I want to go back on the issue of the money and the allegations before we lose that, because I have Dr. Kizza Besigye speaking about this very issue, and I want to bring back that, bite from Dr. Besigye on the issue of money from, sources that are not very clear.
On Monday, during an FDC consultative meeting held in Zambia, Kampala, party spokesperson Ibrahim Ssemujju accused the party president Patrick Amuriat and Secretary General Nandala Mafabi of getting funds for the 2021 campaigns from an unclear source. In response, Mafabi insinuated that former party president Kizza Besigye was behind the moves by Ssemujju and others to undermine the party leadership. Today, Kizza Besigye called for a press conference to respond to the allegations against him. According to Besigye, it is true that large sums of money have been getting into the party under unclear circumstances and no accountability has been given. Besigye says he submitted the complaint to the Council of Elders, who are yet to come out with a report on the source of the funds.
But large sums of money have been coming into our party. At every election, internal, external, the large sums come. You find people, our own delegates who come from up country, they are accommodated in hotels, not by the party, but by candidates.
According to Besigye, efforts to establish the source of such funds were futile as the responsible party members resorted to blackmail.
They were not even happy that I was discussing it, because they said, you were a party president, nobody asked you where money came from. Why are you now coming to ask? And having realized that there was this attitude, I backed off, because obviously it would, if it burst into the public like it has done, it would have been terrible for all our candidates.
Asked why he did not fundraise for Patrick Amuriat, the FDC presidential candidate in the 2021 elections, Besigye had this to say.
We simply had no candidate and no plan. No plan to have one, and later on how to manage and fund those elections. There was absolutely no plan.
And what about the reported influence and interference into party activities by the former leader?
I have really attempted to not engage myself in the running of the party or trying to, comment and influence what goes on, so that leaders, take charge of their parties.
Retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye there. I want to go back. I'm sure you heard that even when he tried to ask about the source of the money, you did not want to give information. This does not sound like a man who knows about the source of the money that you're claiming right now. Or whether you are in agreement about the source of the money. If he knows, like you're saying, he does not agree why you got this money.
I think what you're ignoring is the fact that he has said, and this is true, that this is not the first time that this is happening. Money that whose source is concealed coming into the party, both for external and internal elections. That is what he said. But be that as it may, he sought an explanation. An explanation was given to him.
That's not what he says.
It was given to him.
But that's not what is on tap.
We had a series of meetings. Let me just tell you this, Kamara. Probably the explanation that was given was not satisfactory to him, but an explanation was given. We offered in a number of meetings, internal meetings. What you see today, Patrick, is something that is as a result of an effort being put into this investigation, into finding the truth about this, that was not believed. And so I think that probably our founding father was right to say, look here, to the National Council, there's a problem here. A National Council in his wisdom says, no, we can't resolve this here. Please take it and see how to resolve it by having an Elders Council. The Elders Committee has finished its work. And I think the question of whether that money, dirty money, came into the party or not is going to be determined by the report that will be debated tomorrow. So I would like to advise that the country holds its breath on this. Our members entrusted the Elders Committee through their representatives to do a job. The job has now been done, and the product of their job is going to be unveiled tomorrow. So I think that we all need to exercise patience. If there are any doubts about what the Elders Committee reports, then that is another case. If there are any recommendations that the Elders Committee brings forward, then we will discuss those recommendations and see how to push this party forward.
And finally on this one, so is Dr. Kizza Besigye telling a lie to the world that you told him he doesn't need to know because his time of leadership is gone? Because that's what is on tape.
I don't want you to put words in my mouth. I think it would be a good thing for you to have an opportunity.
You've just listened to him. You've just listened to him. You just listened to him a short while ago, that saying that the leadership of FDC, for which you're president now, told him he doesn't need to know because his time for leading is gone.
No, I think that that is not right. I think
so he lied on that.
Something different was discussed, and I do not have the liberty to divulge no party internal secrets.
Let me go back to what happened at Najanankumbi on Thursday. The despicable image of your party chairman scaling the wall of the perimeter fence. Where were you when it happened?
I was right in Najanankumbi.
Was he running away from you?
For what? Actually, Chairman Waswa Birigwa is my friend. We get along quite well. We make jokes, we visit each other. We have quality time together.
That doesn't look like a man who gets along with you very well while trying to scale the wall of your perimeter fence.
Well, that is like
an elderly man.
That is like to say I was responsible for that. I am here to clear the air on that. I went to Najanankumbi like in any normal day, and when I got there, I got mean-looking young people. They had taken over the headquarters. I sensed danger, and I decided that I should leave the premises immediately. And they said to me, Mr. President, today is a different day. This is a different cup of tea. Yes, we know you're our friend, fellow activist, but you're not going to go back out of that gate. You and the chairperson who has come to address a press conference will leave here late in the day. And I said, how can this be? I have other programs. And I said, no, this is not going to happen. But you know, before I go on to explain exactly what happened, one needs to understand the DNA of the FDC.
Meaning what?
We are founded on defiance. That is a known fact. You have seen us engaging in street battles. You have seen us engaging in demonstrations. We've run programs to try to bring down the regime in power. And this is a known fact. We have had situations where activists, be out of concern for their party, have moved on their own leaders. I do remember that I became a victim myself when at a time I was trying to negotiate with General Muntu to return to the party. And you know, it was such a difficult time and very, very delicate conversations going on between us and the leaders who were almost taking a decision to leave. I remember we went to the Fairway Hotel one day, and this was the final meeting. As we were discussing, a group of young people came, lifted me out of the Fairway Hotel, and told me, you are not going to be wasting time of our party discussing known issues. Do you know that an announcement has been made that General Muntu has quit? The TDA, where Dr. Besigye and others sat, we began to hear things were going on wrong in the TDA. And we said, you know, what is this nonsense that wants to relegate us to a second-class political party in this country? So together with colleagues, I was a member of parliament. I am not a goon, I am not a hooligan. I went to the TDA putting on a business suit, together with my friends, stormed the TDA, and we said we just want one person from here. And the person was Dr. Kiza Besigye. We had a responsibility to save our party.
So all that you are talking,
let me finish this.
Is that a justification of what happened on Thursday in Najanankumbi?
I am giving you a background to how our activists behave. That is all I am giving you. So on that day, as I said, I went to Najanankumbi and was not allowed to get out. So was the chairman. And the reason the mean-looking young men were in Najanankumbi and had overrun Najanankumbi was because they did not want the chairman of the party to address press conference. And they were very clear. They said, look here, elder, we're not going to harm you. Do not see us as a danger to you. What we are here to do is to stop you addressing a press conference. How can we have 3 press conferences in the same week, in a space of 3 days? You people want to destroy our party. So the press was locked out, and then the chairman said,
so you're telling Ugandans that on that day or even now, Patrick Amuriat was not in control.
I was a captive. And you know, this happens. You know, I entered an ambush.
So now you have a group of goons, you have a group of hooligans who are taking leaders captive, but we should trust you with real power. Why should Ugandans trust you with real power if your people can behave like that? If they can handle their leaders, if they can chase the party chairman to scale the perimeter fence of the FDC headquarters.
we
before
don't,
cameras?
we don't control the army. We don't control the police. You know, we are not in government. We are a revolutionary party. And you know, in the revolution, you have all sorts of characters. And you know, what then happened, just to complete this story, the chairman said, you know, I need to be saved. I need to get out of this place. So I am going to call my people to get me out of this place. And you know, just as we were trying to figure out what was going on, another group of activists came, an opposing group to the ones inside. They wanted to break down the gate. There was a fight that ensued, and in the process, journalists were beaten. Their personal possessions taken, equipment stolen. And I would like to, on behalf of the FDC, to apologize not only to the media fraternity, but all Ugandans for what happened in the headquarters. I still believe that if the chairman of the party had been patient, there would not have been a need for him to climb over the wall.
Actually, you should have said if you had shown leadership.
Well,
if the party president had shown leadership.
I did within my capacity.
That was failure of leadership.
No, I think you cannot indict me on that. I reject that. It wasn't. I did whatever was within my means. And so
your party chairman
hold your fire, Patrick.
is humiliated.
hold your
He's forced to, you know, scale the perimeter fence with you at that headquarters, and you're saying young men have taken over, and you call yourself a leader on that day?
Well, I am.
You failed on that day.
No. Have you seen the army taking power from a leader of a government? This is like a coup. In the case of a coup, they can even strip the president naked.
Yeah, but those are examples of failure.
You see, so you are stormed by people unaware. I believe I go to headquarters in peace. I don't move with guards, by the way. I don't move with any weapon in my...
You're forgetting that the example of the coup you are telling us is also an example of failure.
This looked like a coup in itself.
Yes, an example of failure.
No,
on your side.
Not every coup is an example of failure. That is generalizing issues. Patrick, come on, get serious about this. So, this is a person who is president of the party, moves to his office, finds a situation, tries to correct it. It's not like I sat in my office doing nothing. And then, boom, the chairman of the party feels uneasy, and, you know, he decides to run away from what I believe was not danger. Because if what he described is what happened, 15 young people around him, which is not true, by the way, how would he have freed himself from those 15 young people? Run away from them? It was very, very, very sad to see a man of 75 years unnecessarily climbing over a wall. I think if he had really...
And you're saying the danger was not real?
No, if he had fallen down from there...
You think the danger he was running from was not real?
I don't think it was there, because the young men assured him, they told him, we are not going to harm you. You are our grandfather. Take it that why we are here, we just don't want you to address the media. And that is it.
You know, what you have just said is hurting members of FDC. For you to say that Ambassador Virigwa, what he was running from was not real.
I think that we are going to have an internal conversation and speak to each other.
But you're on record. You're on record right now saying that what he was running from was not real.
I think so. I'm on record.
And that's your party chairman.
I can speak to this again and again. I think that his climbing over the wall was unnecessary. If he had only been patient, he could have gone through the gate. In any case, I stayed in that place for 1 more hour, after which I was able to drive through the gate. I didn't have to climb over the wall.
You say yourself at one point you were captured. You were captive.
Yes. I was released.
And yet you think the chairman was not running from any danger?
I was released from captivity. You see, there was total confusion. What was not recorded in camera is an incident where the young men who came ostensibly to rescue the chairman caused havoc on one of our officials, the vice chairman, Mr. Mkala's Chibuka, who, you know, wanted to go out and indeed went out of the gate, found rowdy young men. They had deflated the tires of his vehicle. He tried to drive the vehicle, it was wobbling. He had to stop to ask for help for inflation of the tires. As he was doing that, he was accosted by 5 young people, members of our party, and he had to be saved by the police. Had it not been for the police, maybe the story would be different today.
Hold on to your point.
So this was not a targeted attack on anybody. It was total confusion on the part of our activists, hyper in the way they did their work, you know, and really maybe I have been speaking to my colleagues in the party. I think we really have got a lot of work to do to manage our activists.
You have called it total confusion, but don't forget, on top of that total confusion is a party president, Patrick Amuriat. Hold on to your point, because we're going to take a break, and on the spot we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara. My guest tonight is Engineer Patrick Amuriat, President of the Forum for Democratic Party. You know, what happened last week, or what has continued to happen, is not the kind of scenario that can make it easy for you to recruit new members. Because politics is about power and influence. But if this is what you are, it's going to be a Herculean task for you to convince new members to come. And yet, members, you need more members.
Yeah, definitely we do need more members. The life of any political organization depends on the membership. And I think that, yes, although we have an uphill task, you know, to repair the image of the party, I think we are up to the task to do that. And so it doesn't really worry me so much. I think that the mistakes that were made will be corrected. The way we handle our activists has to change. It must change. There has to be some control over what they do against their party or against anybody who works with us or even doesn't work with us. And so these are the tasks that we are going to embark on, you know, immediately after the national conference, and also, you know, our internal elections.
But do you appreciate that images of young men whom you have called, whom some people have called goons, young men, you know, almost assaulting the chairman of the party, the Honorable Virigwa? That's not a scenario really that can make you like go on a farm on a charm offensive to get some people to join you.
It's even more painful that you know, the journalists were assaulted. Actually, what is recorded on camera, the people who were assaulted that day were mostly journalists. The equipment stolen. You know, there's this girl, I know, Mbabazi, who was roughed up by one of the boys. It's regrettable. Regrettable. It has caused a strain in our relationship with the media fraternity. As a result, there has been a boycott of our activities, and we are really trying to repair this image by, you know, talking to the Association of Journalists to ensure that harmony or coexistence returns between the two.
But you see, that is also going to be very difficult, because at one point you're not in control of that of Najana Nkumbi. You yourself, you are held captive. So how do you convince them to return when you're not in control?
We are going to return sanity to Najana Nkumbi.
Why didn't you have sanity prevail?
You sound like a pessimist. I don't think you'll make a good politician. Politicians have to endure very many difficult circumstances. You have got to go through thin and thick. The pessimism that you're expressing in what you are saying would not make you a good politician.
No, yes, I'm not. That's why I'm not. That's why I'm not a politician. I'm asking you. You have just stated here that you are held captive by young men of your party.
That is just
who assaulted journalists. But now you're telling us that you're going to be in control. You could not be in control on Thursday. You know, why should we believe you that you can be in control tomorrow?
I eventually got out of that melee. I am here, in charge of the party, going about my work.
Because you took a French leave?
In fact, that matter has been resolved. I've since returned to work. And, you know, in charge. So an incident like that should not be over-exaggerated to the extent that it completely dents the good things for which the FDC has stood. In our nearly 19 years, 20 years of existence, there are a lot of positive things that we have done.
Humiliating an old man, a retired ambassador, is not an exaggeration. Before camera is not an exaggeration.
Don't take me there again. What happened, what appeared on the cameras was bad enough. Whatever could have happened inside that could have prompted that happening is something that we need to interrogate. And I think, you know, we are going to soul search ourselves. We are going to be speaking to each other. Why did this happen? Why did the chairman have to climb over a fence? Was it necessary for him to go over a wall fence? Or could he have done things differently? What damage has this caused to the image of the party? How can we repair that damage? This is all going to be the internal conversation that we are going to be engaging in.
What I want to refute is that we are not exaggerating. We are only stating what happened and asking why. Well, how did you leave? How did you let that happen under your watch? This happened under your watch.
One thing that you do not have is the complete story of this. How I wish whatever happened inside the premises had been recorded. Maybe you would appreciate the fact that the decision that the chairman took was not a wise one.
So, you know, let me ask this fundamental question. I suppose it is fundamental. Is FDC suffering from some kind of founder mentality? Are you finding yourself in the shadows of Dr. Besigye, who, as a founder, is not letting go?
No, I think Dr. Besigye is a magnanimous person. I want to qualify what I have said. In 2012, not having lust for power, he decided, out of his own volition, to leave the leadership of the FDC. I would like to attest to the fact that, you know, what Dr. Kizza Besigye just said on that clip about non-interference in the affairs of the FDC is true. He has never attempted, even a single day, to come and manage the affairs in the FDC. We accord him respect. And you know, that is beyond any doubt. We consult him from time to time. We ask him to come over. The very fact that there is this confusion that has been caused as a result of a revelation by him that that money came into the party, notwithstanding, we have continued to relate well. And it's true that organizations sometimes have a problem outliving or outgrowing their founders. But in the case of the FDC, yes, it's true because...
what is true?
You know, it's very difficult, you know, to, you know, outlive the big picture.
But this is the question I'm putting you.
Yes, let me just finish.
FDC has failed to outlive its founder.
Well, you know, there is...
You are operating in the shadows of Dr. Besigye.
In fact...
the founder mentality is all around FDC.
You could even say opposition politics has failed to outgrow the overarching figure in the politics of this country, of Dr. Kizza Besigye. So for us, he's an asset rather than an inconvenience. And we always want him to be available to us. And that is the point that most people miss. You know, it's very easy to misunderstand the role of Dr. Kizza Besigye in all this. At a certain time, people used to call me a walking stick of Dr. Besigye, that I had been put in his back pocket. You know, what do you want me to do with the founder? Run, chase him away? Tell him he's no longer needed? Why do you want us to dispense with our assets?
So the question is...
Our political assets.
Does the founder sometimes make life hard for you to run the party?
Not at all. He's not responsible for the day-to-day running of the party. He's not. He does his own things in Katonga. All that we are actually trying to work on is try to close the gap between Katonga and Najananku.
You made a very fundamental statement that when you are running for president, you did not receive support from the party leaders, including Vice President Lukwago, and actually even Dr. Besigye himself. Why was that?
Well, I think that they had their own reasons for not coming to the campaign.
You have a candid for the party, and the vice president of the party is not supporting a presidential candidate of that party?
That is a question that should go to Elias Lukwago, my brother, who is my deputy. It's true that I came to Kampala. I didn't experience the cooperation from my own members. I do not want to condemn them. They might have, done that for self-preservation, especially in light of the big wave that was very difficult to tame, that was influencing the politics, even the politics of the FDC, politics of the country, but also the politics of the FDC and how our leaders would behave, especially in the central part of the country.
Now, what kind of party are you heading when you, as a presidential candidate, your deputy and the founding members and the founding president are not supporting a presidential candidate who is in the race, and yet you want to capture power? What kind of party is this?
This is going to be a conversation for another day. But you know what you have to appreciate is that multi-party politics in our country is not yet well established. It is very young. And so the tendency for people to adhere to the rules of the party, vis-a-vis what happens outside the party, is something that has to be cultivated, grown, and it should reach maturity. I do not see this happening in the very near future. As a result of that, you are going to find people supporting candidates who are not candidates of the FDC in an election, in contravention of the constitution of the FDC. You are going to have people who will not come with a presidential candidate, because of their personal politics. You are going to have people who will campaign for a candidate of an opposing political party. And this is bound to happen.
So when that happens,
this does not happen only in the
Amuriat, when that happens, then you cannot blame the NRM or President Museveni for allocating you votes. When your own party members, senior members, are not even appearing with you on a campaign podium, that's a total failure. You cannot now say, I was allocated. Where were your party members to come and campaign with you? The Lord Mayor of Kampala, Vice President of the FDC, is not coming to campaign with you, but at the end of the election, you are saying, I was allocated votes.
Well, that is not an indictment on me. I am sure you had the Lord Mayor here. You should have asked him why he didn't come out to campaign for me. He has his own reasons. Maybe they are valid. I haven't interrogated this. I think maybe really this is now a matter that we have got to begin talking about, internally, to find out what went wrong with the election of 2021.
Do you get a feeling that when you took over the realm of power at FDC, you're not totally accepted by all party leaders?
I won convincingly. I did. What I can also say publicly is that my candidature in the election of 2021 was contested internally. I could read the body language of some of my colleagues who did not feel comfortable by the decision of the National Council to field a presidential candidate. Indeed, there were internal conversations, and I can divulge this, where people thought, we should support one, candidate in the opposition. This, the National Council did not agree with, and therefore the FDC had its candidates. It had its presidential candidate. It had parliamentary and other candidates. And I think that on a hindsight, I think this was the best decision that we took. Now, because there was no total agreement within the party, you found some people tending to support, for probably political expedience, their own political expedience, supporting other candidates of the FDC. And this did not happen only in the case of the presidential flag bearer. It did happen also when the campaigns for Member of Parliament came, when the campaigns of the council, lower councils came. And this was prevalent, especially here in the central part of the country. So really, you cannot blame people for not supporting their candidate. They may have their reasons, but one thing that is certainly very true is that they go against the rules of the FDC.
Some of your supporters high up in the party of FDC to seem to suggest that there's some kind of an ethnic split where the West and Buganda are up against the East.
I don't think, I even do not want to imagine that that is what is happening. Because our history is very clear on this. Dr. Kizza Besigye, a person coming from Western Uganda, was not seen as a person from Western Uganda in the East or the North.
I'm talking about during your time now.
I'm taking you through the history of this. During that time, nobody viewed it that way. If there are new elements within the FDC who are causing an ethnic divide within the organization, then they will be identified and they will be advised to pull back on that approach to politics. We will not accept that.
Are there new elements who are causing a split on ethnic dimensions?
I'd rather not discuss that on air, but I think they are. They are. And I think we have to deal with this. This is one of the biggest problems that the FDC has to surmount. So
clear again, your leadership style is to blame, because if Dr. Besigye, during his leadership and others, there was no ethnic divide or ethnic split, and now you can be, the party president is saying there is some ethnic split, then there's a bigger problem. There is an implosion of your party.
You see, a party is composed of millions of people.
Yes.
It is. And people have got different tendencies and characters.
But you have just mentioned here, there's an ethnic split. There is an ethnic split.
No. There may be something happening like that in the FDC, which has to be dealt with if it exists. If you understood me that way, then you didn't understand me well. What I am saying, our history is very clear. And that ever since, we have never had this lens, seen FDC through the tribal lens. Never. And there is no reason for that. If it is emerging today, then it has to be dealt with before it blossoms.
All right, let's look at tomorrow, because tomorrow the National Council is supposed to be sitting. Will it sit anyway?
Yeah, it will sit. I think everything has been, provisions have been made for the information of the country. The delegates to that National Council, most of them have arrived in Kampala and are going to stay the night in Kampala. There are arrangements for that. They have been accredited, most of them today. There's normal business going on at the headquarters. I think there should be no reason for anybody to be afraid of their security. There's going to be no insecurity in tomorrow's function. I want to assure the delegates and that we are going to have normal business as we have normally had.
And that's when
I know that some of our friends issued threats, language like come with your tools. Everybody is allowed. In Najanankumbi, we have enough room for everybody.
What do you mean, come with your tools?
The national, this was said in Zambia. You can play that, tape if you want. The National Council is a meeting of specific people. It is a meeting by invitation. And so whoever is not invited to the National Council does not have any business in the National Council. We are going to have special guests. We are going to have chairpersons of districts, the National Executive Committee, 4 unsuccessful MP candidates drawn from different parts of the country, the 4 regions of the country. We are going to have selected elders coming, and definitely, the focus of our attention tomorrow is going to be the elders committee report.
Headed by Dr. Nabuiso.
Yes, Dr. Frank Nabuiso is expected to deliver this report to the leaders of the FDC. And
you are promising there's going to be harmony, but you accused your party president, vice president of, trying to create chaos and violence.
Well, we have listened to some of our friends. I think that that is not a fighting arena. If they would like us to, fight, maybe there is Nakivubo War Memorial Stadium. We could align the troops there, and the whistle is blown, then we can fight. But for tomorrow...
I hope you remember that you're on tape of having accused your deputy for orchestrating violence.
Well, it may be his word against mine, but that is what he said. This chest thumping that we saw in Zambia was undesirable. And you know, people are on record as saying something relating to incitement of violence. Nobody should attempt to come and cause chaos in the National Council meeting tomorrow or any other day.
One of the things that caused the chaos, I suppose, is because you're supposed to have some elections. But some members of parliament actually called for the postponement of the elections. I want to refresh your minds because this was said by your members of parliament on the postponement of these elections. Before we take a break, let's listen to them.
This is a letter that was issued by the Electoral Commission chairperson of the Forum for Democratic Change, Boniface Toterebuka Bamwenda. The letter confirms that internal party elections for the village and parish levels will take place from Friday to Sunday, and other electoral processes will continue until August. Now, some members of parliament under the FDC caucus have said the elections should not take place because not enough preparations have been done.
I'm calling upon all FDC members, especially those ones in Rukunjiri, in my constituency, Rubabo. We shall not have a disorganized election, which is organized by people who want their own, who have their own agenda.
And so for them, it is just an event. They just want to go through it. And like the Honorable Semuju suggested, that would mean then they get leaders who will work for the regime. And so we, the Democrats, cannot be part of a sham election.
The MPs are urging the party leaders to wait for the guidance of the National Council, which will meet on the 28th July.
And we want to call upon all the FDC leaders, including newly trained supervisors, if they really care for this party, to abandon this exercise until next week's National Council has been held and determined when and how we should go for these elections.
Let the election hold on a bit. Let us first harmonize our house, in-house. We settle the disagreement which is coming up.
The lawmakers say the current wrangles in FDC should be resolved quickly because they are tarnishing the reputation of the party and its members.
I want to call upon Nandala Mafabi, the SG, and the party president to calm down the situation, to listen to the voice of the people who are saying, all on with the election. And all of us are saying that.
Out of the 31 FDC members of parliament, only 4 attended the press briefing. The National Council meeting will be expected to address the allegations of irregular funds coming to the party and the poor handling of the party elections. Juma Kiria, NTV.
Okay, you've had there different views from members of parliament of the Forum for Democratic Change. Before I even bring in some comments and questions coming from our viewers tonight, what do you make of some of those members of parliament? In fact, you were supposed to have had elections, but they never happened. So if this was a game, it was 1-0 for the other side.
No, I think that that is wrong information that you have. The authority to conduct elections under our constitution is given to our Electoral Commission, and they are supposed to act independently. Now, what has happened with these elections is that the National Council did approve an election. The National Executive Committee approved a roadmap. The roadmap began to be rolled out. It was rolled out up to a stage where some members said, look here, let us have a postponement for 1 week. And after 1 week, let's then resume. This happened. We stayed the elections, not 1 week, I beg your pardon, 1 month. We stayed the election for 1 month, and after that 1 month expired, the election processes continued. As I speak now, some districts have elected representatives from the grassroots through to the sub-county. There are districts that have lagged behind, and have waited, given the excuse of the internal conflict as a reason for them not to engage in elections.
Okay.
The National Council is sitting tomorrow. It is my hope that, going forward from tomorrow, the rest of the country will engage in elections, and that we will be in time for the National Delegates Conference.
Okay.
What viewers need to understand is that we have got a time limit. If these elections do not take place by 24th or 25th November, then we will not have a party. We will not have a leadership. And so what the Electoral Commission is trying to do is to work within this time to ensure that all the elections that need to be conducted before the National Delegates Conference in November are conducted without exception.
All right, thank you so much. Let me bring in here views and questions and comments coming in from those who have been watching tonight. And I begin with a gentleman called Ariko in Tororo. He says, "Poa, what happened in Najanankumbi is not normal, because police was just watching, which means they must have been aware. But also, FDC should not have come out to fight in public like women struggling for a drunkard instead of throwing words in public." Ariko in Tororo is not very happy.
Well, Aliko is right. I think it's scandalous. What happened is scandalous. FDC washing their that linen in public. And nobody is left out of this. The leaders and the so-called rowdy activists alike have contributed towards what seems to be a chaotic situation within the FDC. And really, it's incumbent on the leadership and the membership, supported by the membership, to ensure that sanity returns to the party, harmony and unity returns to the party.
And Okello Patrick from Busega says it will survive the storm because these storms are natural as long as humans exist. Both sides need to tone down the rhetoric and have a decent conversation. At times, running a political party in a poor society like ours is not easy. And as long as politicians keep funding their own campaign, the voters will be always hostage to politicians, and until the electorate start funding politicians. Politicians will not be accountable to the electorate. Let me pick some more. Boris Nwasha says, "This is the best president, and my appeal is to one time win general elections." Boris Nwaha from Kabale municipality is watching. Thank you, Boris. I've been FDC in FDC. I recently left it because of the lies of Power and SG. It's totally sad to see such gentlemen thinking people are foolish. I'm more hurt with Power's outright lies. We sacrificed for Power's 2017 party presidential ambitions. I can't imagine it's him talking a Nanga way. I'm Roland Amanya from Mitoma district. Thank you, Roland Amanya from Mitoma. Yeah, so, well, we have somebody who thinks you are the real deal and somebody who thinks you are not. I am Haura Kamoga from Muntinda. I think Power and Nandala should just resign. Hi, Kamara, thank you for the show. To be sincere, manhandling a whole party chairman is an indication of extremely poor leadership at Najanankumbi. This was embarrassing. It's unheard of. Dennis, live from Kawempe. Thank you, Dennis. I want you to respond to some of those before I can bring you some more views from our viewers tonight.
I want to thank those people who have intervened. I noticed that a number who have expressed negative opinion are actually non-opponents. I've been reading their comments on social media, and there have been unkind and negative comments. I wouldn't be surprised about that. But I take note of Mr. Okello from Busega, who says it's not a cup of tea running a political organization. It's a tall order, and it takes political astute politicians to run successfully organizations. When you have opposition within the organization, it even gets more complicated. Viewers should appreciate that we are in an election period, and they are going to be bound to be interests of individual members of the party. There are people who aspire to become the president of the FDC, the secretary general of the office, the treasurer general, the security chief. those will always have to pick on, certain issues about us, about those holding office. It's quite natural that, most of what will come out of them will be negative, because they then seek to overpower us, make us look non-performers, forget about the many good things that we may have done while holding those positions because of political expedience. This is the situation in which we find ourselves at the moment. The issue of money has come at a very bad time. This debate should have happened 3 years ago. Why it came now is something that we need to interrogate, because it comes just 3 months to an election. Could it be that this came out in order to aid some of our opponents to overrun us, to overtake our campaign, to demonize us, so that they may gain politically? Those are questions that, internally we are going to be asking ourselves.
Okay, let me just speak one more. Engineer should cross over to NRM and leave that party, FDC. Let him copy from General Muntu and Winnie. He says he's from the Rwenzori. Robert Mukasa in Masanafu says, Mr. FDC President, is there any hope for a fresh election where every FDC member could be at par and consensus?
I think I will answer the second question. We have got to distinguish between supporters and members. I want to give the example of the United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom, we have got 45 million voters. But the ruling Conservative Party has got only 200,000 registered voters. The Labour Party, that is the main opposition party, has 400,000 only as registered members. And so, it is possible that when we go to a village, we could get 10, 15 or 20 members only in that village. Maybe a village of around 200 people. We will have to accept those as our members. We have no choice but to do that. And when we have a village election, then it is those registered members who will participate in the village elections. So some people have been asking me, we don't see the large numbers of people turning up in the villages for elections. It is the reason that we would like only members to limit this election. This election is not for everybody. It's limited to only members who are registered in our village register. Okay. Now, the person who jokes about me going to the NRM, I have resisted this for the last 30 years of my being in national politics. Both as a member of parliament for 15 years and also as a political activist for 15 years. I have resisted any temptations to join the NRM.
Okay, let me
In fact, I think that out of all the political leaders of political parties in this country, it is myself and the Honorable Chagulanyi and Asuman Basalwa who have never belonged to the NRM.
All right.
And my credentials are very clear. I am not going to join a dictatorship that has let down the people of Uganda, more so when I have spent all this time fighting against this dictatorship.
All right, let me just pick one more question or comment coming from a viewer in Bushenyi. He says, I think that FDC has to change the top leadership, especially its president, because there is no achievement showing up during this regime. I believe that Semuju, if given a chance, can make a big change. I'm Cement Albert watching from Bushenyi. What do you tell Albert from
Well, that is his opinion. He's entitled
and just before that, this question goes to Mr. Amuriat. It looks like you don't influence in the party and you don't have support among many top leaders of FDC, including the founding leader, Dr. Kizza Besigye. How will you manage to run the party? This is Owor Naftali. Thank you, War.
The party does not depend on individuals. The party depends on its membership. And so really what is important is to have a grip of the membership. Our performance is very clear. It's written very clearly on the wall. As a team, we have performed exceptionally well. One would need to come to the party to know what we've been doing on a daily basis. Also, in terms of the change in leadership from one person to the other, this is going to be determined by the delegates' conference. It's not going to be based on a personal opinion, as I have seen somebody writing from Busega. It's going to be based on what the delegates themselves decide when we go to the polls in November. They may choose another person. I will not have any complaint about that. That would have been their decision. They may return me, and if they did, I promise to work to ensure that the FDC party gets to greater heights.
Are you running for president again?
Yes. Why not?
What's going to be your
Why
party?
not?
Well,
why do you think I'm incapable of running for president again?
I am asking you whether you're in the race
A person
again.
who has weathered these storms. This party here, FDC, could have collapsed in 2018. I resisted the collapse. I put my back there. Come on.
You're running again. All right.
You know, it could have collapsed. It could have collapsed, you know, in the advent of the NUP wave. I said, no, we are going to push the wave back.
What's going
to
be? What's going to be your concluding? What's going to be your concluding remark, Patrick?
Well, I would like to thank everybody. Thank you, Kamara, and also to speak to the delegates who may be watching. Please come tomorrow. We are going to have a meeting. We have got to see that this party reunites. We got to see that harmony returns to the party. People have got to discuss as honestly as possible. Members need to consider that, you know, there is no other avenue where the political conversation can take place in respect to FDC other than our home in Najanankumbi and our branches around the country.
Engineer Patrick Amuriat, thank you so much for the time you've given us. Thank you for having added value to our platform. And most of all, you, the viewer, I want to thank you for the privilege of your company. And this brings us to the end of tonight's edition of On the Spot. Good night and God bless Uganda.